The dance routine I performed was a Māori haka. It's a well-known dance, war dance in New Zealand. Not all people will call it a war dance. The elements during that choreograph that I focused on most would be action and space and timing during the routine. I wanted to create a certain narrative. I wanted to show a strong stance with my body. I wanted to also, I didn't want to be too loud because I wasn't able to, but in a usual sense, you are much louder and you are much more forceful with your movements. That shows, as mentioned, a certain type of narrative that's needed to be portrayed and perceived by the audience. So the idea was to share that story and that challenge with whoever I'm facing.
Tāringa whakarongo, kia rite, kia mau. Mate kore, mate kore, tēnei te tangata.
My music video was again a Māori song, and I wanted to emphasize beat, rhythm and the sound at the back of my guitar. Just wanted to show that you can be very versatile and resourceful in those areas, but those fundamental elements, like I said, duration, beat and rhythm, that shaped that musical experience. I wanted to show exactly how I could just stay in time, enjoy the process of making the video and staying in beat, which is mainly the priority. And with my body movement as well, swaying to the music, I think that I couldn't really help that. So again, it was a good idea to connect to the song. I could connect to the song, and I had connected to the song beforehand. And like I do change the beat up a bit, or I try to. I think it just sort of throws a different artistic freedom in there, and just enabling some meaningful connection to the song. Yeah, thank you. Nothingness was the beginning. Out of nothing came the night. From the night came the father Rangi. From the night came the mother Papa. Rangi, Papa joined together and in coupling. Thus created first the land, when the world was just the beginning, when there were no stars or planets, when there was no sun or moon, long before all living creatures, long before the time of man. When the world was all in darkness, absolute and utter darkness, not a ray of light. Rangi, the great sky father, Papa was the great earth mother, God and goddess, born eternal, clinging fast to one another, close together, warm embracing, like a pair of adult lovers, arms intertwined around each other, indivisible together. I really wanted to emphasize a slow form of rhythm. The sound devices that are included serve and reinforce a message of creation, and it's not your normal poem that you will probably see commercially or through mainstream. It is something very deep and meaningful, and it is about a certain view of creation and how Māori believe New Zealand were made, or Aotearoa was made. Hence the name Land of the Long White Cloud, which is actually explained in the poem as she is the sky. So the sky and the land were formed sort of like this. They're a bit too close together. In time they do split, but the main point was that I wanted to make it a nurturing type experience, and that is emphasized through the rhythm and the form, which ensures like how I communicated effectively. The poem needed to be, it explored a lot of love, it's explored care and reciprocity, themes that I felt I could use in a certain way to help the audience understand that it's a story of how Māori see the creation of their world, and the intertwining cultural love and respect that they have for their land, and what it means to them. But yeah, that is what I wanted to show the most. It's sort of the core of the poem, which is a significant belief in Māori culture. But that's what I was looking for. Thank you. So my media arts piece is a video featuring my family. The key elements I focused on composition, timing, foreground, background, sound, lighting, the movement of the photos, how long you looked at the photos, the music attached to the videos and the photos all together. I did only choose the one song. I felt that was the narrative I wanted to show. That was the perspective I wanted people to see, how I see my family, and how lucky I believe I am. But those elements do enhance narrative, and I do believe that it does show a certain type of storyline narrative as expressed before. Thank you. When looking at my media arts project in a bit more depth, some of the things that come to mind when putting it together, I think paying attention to the elements and identifying how to best position pictures, how to best use sound, how to best use other videos or clips that I'd taken from over the years. A lot of it is detailed around how the kids have managed to have like some really cool experiences, and us as parents has got to watch that, and I wanted to make sure that I use those elements correctly to create that emotional situation where I believe you can see a bit of truth behind it. There's a lot of happy faces, there's a lot of smiling, there's a lot of play, and that's usually what the kids are like, so it's a good honest view of that, and those elements that I've managed to use manipulate some of the environment that they're in, and you can get a different feel of happy and sad and a lot of gratitude when looking at it. But that was mainly what I wanted to do. And in terms of pedagogy and using media arts as a tool, like it's almost a never-ending process. You can get or you can use so many different things and videos, pictures and sounds. Like it's endless what you can do with it, and endless amounts of discovery, and also the use of propaganda, using it to influence others and how they think. And again, that spectrum goes forever. But yeah, like it's a very open-ended type investigation series that you can use. Media arts, you can go to many different genres with it. You can really use it to do a lot of good. And in terms of education and pedagogy, I believe great way to start looking at how the media is used and what it's used for and how best to use it, and in terms of investigation, really diving deep into things or resources that are available to you. So in reflection to my dance routine in more depth, that is a very familiar piece. It is something that expresses not only a narrative of being Indigenous, experiencing Indigenous things amongst dance. The choreography is very specific, and it shows that certain narrative, and it is shown by using the elements of the timing and the slapping movements of the arms, and which way the arms are used to resonate with war, not necessarily meaning war, but meaning challenge. But when you mean that challenge, that the beat and the fluid movements show a type of aggression that is willing to be showed, and it shows a type of expression for that time and place and circumstance. So timing is very, very important, and focusing on the action and the familiar routines that are involved. But yeah, it's an expressive and relatable emotional experience, and it can be used for a multitude of situations, from very, very sad to very, very joyful, and everything in between. It depends on those elements and those movements within the routine, and how you express them, volume of voice and deepness of voice, or having women involved where the pitch can change for the dance part. There's a lot of different things that are involved, but it must always come down to understanding from a cultural perspective, their perspective first, before understanding how you can perform those actions. It is not done lightly, and it must be well thought through, and it must be practiced if you want to express a certain or control that certain narrative of what you're trying to express, what you're trying. The third in-depth view, or how arts-based inquiry really interested me during this piece, because I'm not that expressive type of person, so having to try and figure out what appealed to me during that time so that I could express the elements that are necessarily needed within the context of visual arts, and learning through that style of discovering and investigating, and trying to understand how certain pictures portray certain narratives, and how images and the shape, colour, space and the value of what those themes are and how they're being expressed, and then showing the effect that I think arts-based inquiry is going to have, not just today but forever in the future, and that the more that technology develops, the more discovering and investigating you're going to be able to do. So it was a significant piece, and it was very cool putting it together. It was easy to make a personal connection to that activity, but having to look through and see what appealed individually to me was an experience, because as I was going through it, it was sort of communicating to myself, how it made me feel, or how it directed that narrative of arts-based inquiry and using visual arts as a tool to dive quite deep. And you can use it for so many different things, with media art. You're saying with media arts and music and everything else, but I found I could have just deep dived and used 1,000 pictures to paint 1,000 different words that could collaborate and show a perspective, a narrative. You can control that completely. As you probably will see on every social media account, that there probably is, everybody's trying to visually control that narrative, and I think using the elements of visual arts within that context, or within any context, could take you further and deep dive into much more of any learning you want to do. So deep diving, using arts-based inquiry, integrating it into, you can integrate it into most things, literacy, numeracy, really deep diving into showing videos and pictures of how math is relatable to the world, and using drama in a sense to express certain attitudes of history, showing lots of different ways to learn lots of different things. Art-based inquiry in general is as I've experienced, a fantastic way to control narratives, understand perspectives, using the certain elements within context of dance, context of visual arts, context of poems and media arts and music, and all those things that are related, certain elements that break things down into steps so that you can use them appropriately in order to control your narrative and what you want to show. arts-based inquiry is about deep diving more and investigating